Nicks and Bruises, we are back. Shout out to the chat. Yo, Black is time. I got the first lady of MBK, the queen in the building. What up, queen?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm appreciating these Mondays.
Yeah, yeah. I love the way we moving out here for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
I'm gonna start off. We're gonna talk about the Knicks doubling down on depth and who makes the final roster spot. But I want to start with a question to you and a couple of comments that I've noticed going around um the Knicks community. So my question to you is, do you think the front office views of Randle have changed um after the success of the team last year?
Y- uh, I don't know if that's when it happened, but I'm starting to think yes. I'm starting to think yes. It's just it's just a few things that gets me wondering. You know, the captainship, can Randall not have been co-captain? Um Not signing him to an extension, and I get it. They want roster flexibility, but if you really believed in him and his team, why not lock it in? You know, um, and why does the roster flexibility has to come at the expense of his contract and not maybe OG Ananobi's contract? Um, yeah, it's just it's something about it that just gets me to thinking that maybe. And remember, they didn't draft him. Him and Mitch were here when they got here. I don't know. Just got me thinking that maybe that is the case.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's peace. Shout out to J tapping in. Always appreciate you. Nixon Bruises channel member. Appreciate you for sure.
Patreon,
Um,
appreciate you.
so the thing that's got me wondering is all the smoke, right? All the smoke that's going on. Zach Lowe, and I hate the take, man. It really pisses me off. But Zach Lowe talking about Randall should be in the bench role.
Oh wow,
Um,
I didn't
yeah,
hear that one.
yeah, yes. I mean, I remember a few weeks ago we talked about
Wow.
the Ian Begley fan question, mailbag question, where I think the question was asked, should Randall go to the bench, but Begley answered the question, yes, I think Randall will play minutes with that second unit, not that he should be, you know, a bench player, a reserve player. So I think that stirred some things up with the translation or the mistranslation. Um, and then you got Ian Begley again with the quote, Randall will accept any role asked of him if it leads to winning. Now that's a blanket statement in itself. You know what I mean? But I do always feel like, when people are reporting, reporters in particular, journalists in particular, they're very specific in their wording to leave some things open to
Mhm.
interpretation rather than having a definitive statement. I think they like the fact that things can be taken out of context or ran in this direction or that direction. But at the same time, it does make me question these things as far as, um, you know, from the front office end,
Right.
and they've said everything to nip it in the butt, right? They've come out and said, they're not looking to trade Randall. You know what I mean? The reports coming out on the extension have been stated as mutual. So it's not like we're hearing, oh, Randall wants this amount and the Knicks don't want to go over this amount, or you know what I mean. So it's never been anything definitively about that. So I think they've done everything in their power to kind of silence some of the noise. But then again, you know, when there's smoke, there's fire. So that's what made me ask the question in general. Go ahead.
But they're using words to put out the smoke, but the actions is fanning the smoke. You know what I mean? And I get where they're coming from. You know, with Brunson signing the extension, we get some flexibility over the next year or two. I believe it's 2 to 2026, 20 if we need to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
So so do we want to give that up by signing Randle to a max extension now? You know, context, signing Randle to a max extension, you still will be below the second apron for what I understand, but with only 10 players signed, right? So once you sign the other 4, you'll probably be over the second apron. Um, I don't know. I just feel like your 2 best players, you take care of them. You take care of them off top.
So here's my thinking. Hopefully, I'm correct. You know what I mean. If you're looking at it as everybody working together, as far as Randall's side, you know, the front office side, he's back with CIA. So obviously, the sides communication, there should be no barriers to break or miscommunications in that sense. My thinking is best for the team, best for Randall would be opting in, extending off the opt in. You know what I mean? The long term goal.
Right.
But I don't know if you could put that information out. I don't know if that's considered. I mean, I don't think you can tamper with your own player. You know what I mean? But I don't know if that's something you could. It may be something on silent end. You know what I mean? In the back channels.
But
This
they
is
didn't do it yet though. Like,
well, he can't opt in until a certain point.
oh,
Opt you know, after the opt in,
oh,
and then get an extension.
okay, okay,
Um, so because he still gets his money, the Knicks still get that second year of flexibility
mhm,
that you know what I mean that Brunson was providing. The McHale deal could potentially extension could potentially come in October, I believe. You know what I mean? So it could all be a buying time for a long term goal
okay,
or plan, and maybe insiders have this information. You know what I mean? And again, I do believe Knicks for clicks is a real thing. You know what I mean? So when you can word things and stir the pot, if you will, you know what I mean,
mhm,
and generate these views and things of interest. And I think why not do that? I'm speaking from the journalistic standpoint. But from the Knicks front office and the team building perspective, they may already have that long term plan worked out, but you can't really address it until the timing of it. You know what I mean? The timing
so you
presents
could sign
itself.
an extension earlier than you could pick up your option?
I believe so because the option is at us the if he signs the extension, it's you could decline the option at any time. So it's almost like declining the option early and the extension kicking in. It would potentially kick in next year. Um, if you opt in, you can't. I don't think you can opt in and extend off of that until you opt in, and you can't opt in until that date. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's at least that's my understanding of it. It like his extension would negate next year's contract at 30 million and
Right.
push it up to a certain amount.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? So, but if he waits till the summer, opts in, it still be 30 million next year,
Right.
and then the extension will kick in the
Right.
following year. So I don't think he could opt in until the
Gotcha.
season's over.
Gotcha.
And you know, if I'm wrong, please somebody familiar with the information, you know, reach out in the chat. you know what I mean, in Twitter, whatever. But that's my understanding of it. As far as the question, do I think that their stance changed? I I don't. I think it's more of still not necessarily wait and see, but let's see. You know what I mean? Let's see what it is with him healthy, with this team, with the upgrades. Um, but I do agree. I've wanted the extension to be done for this particular reason. I didn't want this to be a talking point for the full season. You know what I mean? Like just from my own perspective, let alone potential um things that could affect on the court. I really just didn't want us to be talking about it all year long.
Yeah.
But that's the way I'm looking at it right now. I do think they know what their long term plan is, their long term goal is for sure, and we can't be privy to that information until a certain timeline. But yeah, let's talk about these. I thought we was gonna do the front office show today. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna deep dive into that front office thing, but I am gonna give them some credit on the turnaround that they have put the Knicks in position to be in, where now we got veteran guys, not superstar names at all, you know what I mean, on the back end, but veteran guys that are willing to take lesser roles potentially, lesser money potentially. Um, I mean, definitely non-guaranteed contracts to prove that they could make this team and potentially be on the back end of the roster. That's a big change in what we're used to, right? These guys are like contending pieces, right? That usually the I mean, we're a contender, but usually the contenders get these guys: Mook Morris, Landry Shamet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna talk about those two guys in particular. If they can make the roster, because I think there's only one spot. So unless the Knicks waive somebody, I don't think both of them make it. And then Okiki as well. Um, we'll start with Shamet. I seen your Twitter post, X post. I don't even be on like that, but it popped up and I saw your excitement about it, or you know what I mean. But what was your thoughts for the people who are unaware when we first signed Shamet?
Well, when we first signed him, I didn't know it was a non-guaranteed contract. I thought it was a guaranteed contract. And I thought like not that we necessarily need a shooting guard, but I felt like he would be a situational player and is like an upgraded situational player, like somebody who's not in your nine-man rotation, but if he does, I mean, how much of, depending on who he's replacing, the drop off may not be, that great as opposed to going to a situational player who's in the, G League or, on a two-way, right? So I was excited about that. Then I started to think, is this the move before the move?
Hmm.
Are they bringing in, another player on the roster because they already know that, what they need to complete a trade for a center. So that ran through my mind. Um, as well. Now I know it's a non-guaranteed contract.
And what did that change for you, as far as knowing it's non-guaranteed? May not make the team. You know what I mean? He's got to kind of prove it, fight for it, and potentially, in a sense, I mean, especially now with the Mook signing as well, um, take somebody's spot. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I think I didn't. I was a little disappointed. I was like, it's non-guaranteed. He may not. He may not make the team, or they may. Somebody else may make it. Then when they signed Mook, I said, oh, okay. Well, there's going to be a battle now for that last spot. Okiki, Mook Morris, and Shamet. I was excited about the fact that again. look at our situational players. If any one of them, makes the team, that's an upgrade as far as situational players are concerned.
Um, so I'll start with Shaman as well. Um, I had to go do my Googles. You know what I mean? Go to YouTube, look at some film. I knew he's been a guy who's bounced around the league. Played. I think this is his 6th year and possibly his sixth team. Um, but what I did remember before I even did any research was he was integral everywhere he's been. Right. I think he started in Philly. You, you know, um, played on the Clippers that same year, so rookie year. Played on 2 teams. I know he was part of the one of the all rookie teams. I know he shoot the ball lights out. I think last year was 33%, which was his worst year, but
Mhm.
still is averaged at 38. So that tells you a lot to have a drop off that significant and still have a career average at 38. Um, highlights definitely excited me. Because I didn't know he was as athletic um as he is, or some of the highlights tend to show. I didn't know he had that much hops. He reminds me of, I'm not gonna say a DiVincenzo replacement,
Mhm.
and I don't think he has the defensive capabilities of a DiVincenzo, but he could definitely fill. If we didn't make all the moves we made this year, and then he was the guy backing up DiVincenzo, you know what I mean? I would have been like, oh, that's a solid pickup right there. You,
Right.
you know what I mean? So the fact that he may not even be that high on the depth chart if he makes the team, yeah, these are the type of
Yeah.
back end players that I think we didn't have last year. You know what I mean? And so I was excited. And then the non guaranteed part, um, exhibition 9, I think it's called.
I think
Um,
it's exhibition. Is there an exhibition? I know there's an
there's
exhibition
a
10.
there's a
Is there a
there's
9 as well?
yeah, I think both of these are considered exhibition 9s,
Oh,
as opposed to 10. I'm not sure what the difference is 100%, other than these guys, if they get injured in training camp, they get 15K guaranteed, which is not a huge amount of money. Excuse me. I think Okiki is on exhibition 10,
right,
and I want to say his guaranteed money, if he doesn't make the roster, is a lot more significant.
right.
Couple of 100K. So I'm assuming the exhibition 10 is a higher stature of contract than
Mm,
actual exhibition 9, which is interesting, when we break this down about who makes the team and
right.
those questions. But yeah, those was my thoughts, man. I thought it was I thought it was a great signing, especially from that perspective of, you know what I mean, back and maybe not even playing
Mhm.
guy, but if we need him, he could come in and shoot lights out, and has a skill set, a definitive skill set.
Right.
Where he fits and the defensive thing, um, I'm not too concerned with it considering where we are as a team as a whole. I mean, we have guys that can shield a a non plus defender
Right.
here and there with Macau, with OG, with Hart, etc. etc. So not as concerning. So that's all I really, those were my initial thoughts. Anything you want to add on Sherman show?
Are we gonna get into which one we wanna make the
Yeah,
team?
we're gonna do that
Oh, okay.
afterwards. We're gonna break down Mook,
Yeah.
and then we gotta talk about Okiki as well, and then we're gonna kind of figure out if it's one out of the three
Mhm.
where we see it falling. So yeah, let's shout out to Blanche here's in the chat.
Salute.
Salute my brother. Uh, appreciate you as always, and the entire chat. But I just seen a glimpse, so I had to shout him out. Um, yeah, let's talk about Mook. Mook, I was a lot more excited about, but floor is yours. I'll let you set it off, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah, I haven't. I have to be honest. I haven't seen him play in a while, so I'm not sure how much he has left. Um, I don't. I don't see him as someone that's in the rotation. Like I don't see him, even if he made the team, for example. It's an interesting question. I don't see him beating out Precious because I see him more as a backup center than a power forward.
Mook,
Yeah, I see him as an undersized center. Um, I mean, I guess he could play. He could play power forward, but I don't see him being in the rotation at all. I don't see him beating out a Sims. I don't see him beating out um a Precious. Um, but I like having that toughness on the bench. I like having that toughness in the locker room. I like having that toughness as part of the team. Obviously, it would be better if he was in the rotation in terms of you could really feel the toughness. Um, and he'll have a better opportunity to be an enforcer, right? If you're on the floor, it's hard to be an enforcer when you're um, when you're not playing any minutes. Now, is this the Morris who played for the Cavaliers last season?
yes, and for us,
Yeah, I know, but he played for us for such a long time ago. I'm just trying to get a sense of where his skills are now. So if he's the one who played for the Cavs last year, he gave them some good minutes. He gave them some good minutes last year. So all right.
shout out to Allen Vaughn. Morris in the Cavs Celtics series was the legit second, third option after Mitchell went down. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Um. Yeah. I mean, he's a guy I was excited about. I ain't gonna lie. Once a Nick, always a Nick. Now he has an opportunity to get back here. I do want to touch on his previous run here, right? Um, I think his best season as a pro was here. 19 points a game, led us in scoring. Was definitely the leader that year on this young power forward based team. um, Probably had the best. I don't know if he had the best career, but had the best success among the guys brought up in that team that year with Bobby Portis, you know what I mean, coming from the Bulls and this is pre Bucks Bobby Portis, you know what I mean? Obviously Julius Randle coming here from the Pelicans where his trajectory has always been up but never was a star or the lead guy on the team. And then Morris, he came and took it. He's like, hey, I got the most experience. I've been to Eastern Conference Finals. I've been on successful teams, and he came and
Yeah.
took that leadership role. By all means, this is not the same Mook Morris that we had, and I don't expect any remnants of that guy leading us. But
Hmm.
that being said, that veteran presence, that guy that can come in and fill in at any moment when needed, and come in and still drop buckets. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
plus 30. I think he's like a 37% 3-point shooter. Um, he's done that throughout his career. And the biggest thing, what I've been asking for a few years now, is some people call it a goon. You know what I mean? Some people call it a bruiser. You know what I mean? But he's a guy that's gonna protect everybody else on this team, right? Guy that come in not afraid to give a hard foul. You know what I mean? Not afraid to get in somebody's face if need be. And it takes that onus away from somebody who may be a little bit more important in a series or during some time. Um, so yeah, I was super excited when we signed him. I thought it was a guaranteed contract, and then I read the same thing. Oh shoot, he got to prove it. But I like that atmosphere. I like that that thing, this thing that the front office is doing. Like we have our plan. We got our main guys. Okay, you want an opportunity? Come show it. Come show you could beat somebody out. It's not going to be given to you.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely excited about Mook. Anything you want to add or about Mook in particular?
Um, he still got a little game. Just thinking about that series last year. You know, the Cleveland series. He got a little something, so he can help us if he ever does get in the game. It's not like well, Taj helped us too, but he got a little more left in the tank than a Taj Gibson, had.
And what I like about him is, other than his year here, he's been a piece. You know what I mean? He's been a connector. So he can come in. Somebody put it. Did I just have it up? If Randall's out, he might be starting. On the season, but he's a guy that can fit right in. You know, he's not gonna pound the ball, but he can handle the ball a little bit, bring the ball up a little bit if need be. You know what I
To a
mean?
degree.
To a degree. You know what I mean? Not running the point. I'm just mean like
Mhm.
or off the rebound. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like but yeah, spot up shooter, good solid defender. I'll say. You know what I mean? Like obviously he probably took taking a step back in that aspect, but yeah, he's he's a guy who's filled the role and played alongside stars. You know what I mean? Played alongside um A1s and A2s and still had a definitive role. And bring some more toughness to this team. So yeah, man, excited about him for sure. Um and then Okiki, the last guy who's on a exhibition contract. This one's the exhibition 10.
Mhm.
This one, like I said, I think the main difference is um he gets a couple $100,000 if he doesn't end up making the team. And I would think if anybody has the leg up, you know what I mean, like it's probably him, just based off the level of what
Mhm.
these contracts are, not Exhibit 9 compared to Exhibit 10.
Mhm.
But he's probably the least proven out of the three guys. You know what I mean? So again, it's not given to him. He has to. He has guys he has to beat out, and I
Right.
like that because he's not competing against the guarantee contracts. Even though I'm going to throw in a guy that might lose his guaranteed contract and maybe open up a spot for two of these guys if they earn it.
You
Um,
think so?
uh, who's the guy that came with Mikal Bridges? I never say his name
Oh,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Obviously he has a history with Tibbs.
Mhm.
Maybe that gives him a leg up, but he's the guy out of all the chats, all the platforms. I haven't seen one highlight
Right.
spotlight on him.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Or you know what I mean? It's he's always talked about in passing. Um, I'm still not. I still haven't done my research on him, to be honest. Maybe you could give some insight if you're familiar.
He's a small forward. That's all I know.
So it's like
Yeah.
he's the guy that I'm like, if somebody may lose, you know what I mean, may lose his guaranteed contract or waived or whatever to make space for one of these guys. If two of them pop, then he's the one. So I think there's a small window for two of these guys to make the roster, not just one. Um, but what's your thoughts on Kiki? You know I'm super high on him. I did my Googles, my research on him. I love the highlights. You got defensive highlights, you got offensive highlights. This guy is definitely a two-way guy who I think fits right in to the mold of the Mikal Bridges, the OG Ananobis to a lesser extent. But I think talent wise, he has, and even a Josh Hart. You know what I mean? Because I think he plays with that. To quote quiet, reckless abandon. You know what I mean? Like he goes out and gets it. With effort. What's your thoughts on Okiki? And then we'll talk about who we think
Yeah,
maybe gets the spot.
I like him. He got significant minutes on the Orlando Magic one season. Some injury concerns there. Not a great shooter, but a really good defender. So if you're looking to double down on that forward spot, which you probably should be looking to do, um, he's a good bet. He's a good bet. Matter of fact, and we'll get into this later. All three of these guys, you can't go wrong. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Signing any one of them. The front office is really on it in terms of just creating more options for us.
Let me shout out Parrish Duggar. Appreciate you with the super chat. He says support and salute all as always. As always, I appreciate it. Um, and then there's another comment I wanted to highlight real quick. Pardon me. There we go. Vaughn Allen, he said Brunson definitely needs that protection. Talk about Mook Morris. But yeah, back to
And
Precious.
Retail
Oh,
NYK has the name of the player we were talking about. Kiata Bates Diop.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. The
Diop. Let's just say Diop.
anybody familiar with him, please give. You know what I mean? Like put it in the chat. Am I bugging? Is he a guy that potentially, you know, could be waived to open up a second spot for one of these two guys if two of them, can make it. But yeah, and then Freezy, he says Okiki is a great person, very high value system. Um yeah, man, it's tough. Like you said, it's eeny meeny it's really eeny meeny miny mo. Um how about we do it like this before we think who gets it? Let's make a case for each of them. Um, if you had to make a case, I'll let you choose who you want to make your case for. If you had to pick one to make a case for, and you could make a case for any one of them, but
Yeah, this is tough because I like all three of them. Um, I'm gonna make my case for Marcus Morris because of the position that he plays. He got a little something left in the tank. If Randle has to miss some games, I'm not saying he would start. I think Josh Hart would probably start at the 4, but he can move into the rotation and give us a little something. Even though he's 6'8", somebody correct me if I'm wrong. He has played small ball center in the past. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And
he
so
has.
Precious is 6'8". You know what I mean? And we're gonna use him as a small ball center. Um, Sims is 6'10", but he doesn't have the offensive versatility that Mook Morris has, even at age 35. So I just think that we would probably, if all three of them was on the roster and I had to guess who would get the first opportunity, I think it would be him because of the position that he plays and just where we are. Randall with the shoulder, maybe he's not 100%. Maybe when he comes back, he can't play his full load. Whatever. That's my case for Mook. That because of the position he plays, we may have to use him sooner than later.
That's that's a fact. I think that's a great case. To your point, he did play small ball center with the Celtics at times.
Mhm.
Um, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a staple of it, but in the pinch. Um, and then to your point, the versatility, the the fact that he can play small ball center, he could play. You know what I mean? He was the lead guy over Randle at the three. Randle played the four. He played the three. You know what I mean? But he was the main guy, so he could play that three spot. He could play that four spot. So now the fact that you're available to play 3, 4, 5, in a pinch, any whatever's needed at this given moment, that given moment, I do think that gives him a good edge to kind of get that spot. Um, like I said, the fact that he's an enforcer, you know what I mean, a guy that you could depend on to protect the guys around them. Come in and get that hard foul, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are all great points for him. I'm gonna make my case for Okiki in the sense that number one, I'll say out of all the three guys, he's probably the guy who has the most untapped potential, right? Room for growth. Um, Now that could be considered a question mark, right? He like in the same sense, he's probably the biggest question mark out of the three guys. You know what I mean? But also young still. And like I said, that two-way ability, which fits right into the mantra of this team, the wings that we have already. I don't know if he's gonna play any small ball five, but definitely has the makeup to play the three, play the four, and gives you that multiple position, thing that Mook also has. I'm trying to think if I'm leaving anything out.
I don't
I
know
mean,
about his two-way ability though. I mean, I think he's more of a defensive player than an offensive player.
fair enough. Well,
In terms of efficiency, I should say.
yeah, I mean his role probably wouldn't be to get you a bucket.
Right.
So let me rephrase that. Probably closer to 3 and D than two-way per se. And I so correction. Because I do say the two of them as if they're the same at times, and,
Right.
and I know they are not. You know what I mean? Like, so I would put it more as 3 and D potential as opposed to two-way potential, because you're not gonna go give him the ball to go get a bucket, but you surround him by playmakers, and I think he's not gonna I don't think he would be the offensive liability. I don't think he'll be an offensive liability. Let me say that.
I will say this, Tone. For his career, he shoots 38% from the field
From the field.
and 32% from three. Last year, he shot 28%. Um, Again, only 47 games. The year before that, 30% in 27 games. And the year when he played his most games, 2021, 2022, he played 70 games. He shot 31.8, 32%.
Mm, okay.
Now, he's had a lot of time to practice. He's had a lot of time to practice. He played 47 games. So maybe, um, he's working on it. Maybe he's working on it.
So I mean, and I appreciate that too, because everything I've seen was only highlights. You know what I mean? And I know the highlights make everybody look great, but
But he's a good player, though. I've seen him play, and he's one of those check a lot of the box. He may not be efficient, but at the end of the game, maybe like a Josh Hart stat line, maybe
mhm.
not at that level. He's just filling in, the box score across the board.
It's the effort that really got me with him. You know what I mean? Like he's second, third effort. You know what I mean? Not giving up on plays,
Right.
and very similar to Precious in a sense. I think he has a little bit more offensive capability than Precious. I could be wrong. Again, this is based off highlights, and I'm expecting Precious to take a jump this year offensively. I finally see him on some workouts. You know what I mean? Not walking with lions and stuff. Um, but yeah, anything you want to add to Okiki, and then we're gonna make our
Yeah.
case for Shamet.
He's, I don't want to put this on OG, but his history is his history, and if you got to move Devo into that starting lineup, now Devo and Bridges is in that starting lineup. If OG have to miss some games, it's good to have some height coming in at that three position, right? Precious is not a three. Um, um, who else would be on the bench? Mook, I don't know if he could play three. Well, anyway, both of them wouldn't be on the team anyway. Um, unless they drop D out to your point. I don't see Mook. He played three at one point of his career. I just don't see him being there at this point, in his career. Um, yeah, I think that's the case for him is injuries. The case for him is that if OG has to miss games and you move Devo into that starting lineup, it's good to have a 6'8" guy who could come in and defend off the bench.
The only other thing is, I think you mentioned the games played. I think he's had injury riddled,
He had.
you know what I mean, career as well. So I think that's one of the things the Knicks are banking on with him is
Mhm.
health, which is the biggest question mark. Now, sometimes you could take that risk when you have. I mean, is it a double risk? We talk about OG's injury concern, and then if this guy has to come in and fill any type of role, and now maybe he gets injured, like, is that something that would concern you, or concern the organization? But
Yeah,
that's the only what I mean. Not is can this guy be healthy enough to even be available if need be?
right. And Vaughn Allen brings up a good point. Josh Hart at three. So if there's injuries, yes, you can run Josh Hart at the three.
Um, Landry Shamet, you want to lead your case with him? I'll double down where need be, or add.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the shooting guard. I think we got Bridges, we got Devo. If you consider Deuce an undersized shooting guard, then you got Deuce. Um, bringing in Shaman. I mean, I guess the case for him is pretty much the same, injury wise. If Devo has to move into the starting lineup, you have somebody coming off the bench in his mold now. Maybe not on the defensive end, but somebody who can shoot. So you could kind of still play the same way in that second unit with Shaman taking Devo's spot in that second unit. Though Deuce getting more minutes will probably be the first option before they bring in Shamet, but it's always good. You can't never have enough shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Can't ever have. I think he's a career, what, 37, 38%
Yeah,
three.
38, and that's with last year at 33. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
You never
so
have enough shooters. And then, you know, if there is a trade, before the season or in season, they move up. He moves up a little bit depending on who goes out, in that trade. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo with any one of those guys.
I mean, my case for him is no matter where he's been, bounced around everywhere, but no matter where he's been a rotational impact player on that team. Even with his limitations, like you said, you can't have enough shooting, and that's his definitive skill set that he took with him year in year out wherever he's at. Um, and the fact that he wants to win. like he chose New York because of the opportunity to be with a winning organization, after playing on the Wizards. I watched his exit interview last night, I believe, or the night before, his exit interview with the Wizards. And, some of the things he spoke about, you could tell he wasn't used to losing. He didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? But he talked about how he became a leader on that team. And it was about little things, even though obviously nobody wants to lose, but it was about getting better night in and night out. It was about, all right, man, we losing by 20 game in and game out. Let's see how we could get it to 10. You know what I mean? And improve. All right, now we're getting it to 10. You know what I mean? Let's see how we could bring it to a single digit game by the end of the game. And he talked about the growth of the team, the Wizards, and how by the end of the year, well, number one, kudos, because they never gave up. He said it would have been easy, you know what I mean, for collectively, individually, for us to be like, all right, this is a losing season, you know what I mean? Why are we even here? But no, they kept continuing to try to fight and get better, even to the end of the year when the games were obviously meaningless. Um, so culturally wise, I think he fits right in to this organization as far as like that camaraderie with the teammates, that not letting yesterday's game dictate today's game, that continuing to get better night in and night out as a team. Like, those were the things that stood out to me, which made me like him even more. Obviously, I'm like, all right, he's not just a shooter. In a sense, he has some leadership qualities. Um, and granted, he won't be anywhere on that pecking order, but sometimes locker room leadership is just as important as on court leadership or vocal leadership. You know what I mean? Like, and I think he'll fit right in. Granted, if he makes the team. Yeah, let's narrow this thing down. Let's let's figure out. Let's start with, if it's only one guy, who do you think potentially makes this final roster spot? Is it based off of their what they're capable of? If playing time, whether it's based off of positional need and flexibility, what gives that last guy the edge to make this team? If it's only one of these three.
I think fit is going to be important. How they fit offensively, how they fit defensively, how they fit mentally, in terms of what we do, how we play, our culture. I think that's going to have something to do with it. And I don't see any one of those guys not fitting in to our culture. I don't know as much about Shamet though, culture wise, but Mook for sure and
Mhm.
Okiki for sure will fit in culture wise. And just given what you said about his exit interview makes me believe he would fit too, culture wise. Um the edge would probably be based on need, but I could see the need. I can see the need for it for every one of them. You know what I mean? But I think it might even be training camp.
Mm.
Training camp might be what separates them.
All things considered, these are, potentially three different positions. Do you think
Yeah.
the training camp? Do you think they each have a equal shot in training camp? So do you think the opportunity they get in training camp will be equal across the board, given they are potentially three different positions.
Yeah,
Um,
great question. I think forward is a bigger need than guard, but I think Shaman is the best player out of all three of them in terms of value, right?
mm,
In terms of value to your team, and I don't think you could trade him, right? You still got to wait six months if you so that means you're basically signing him for um for the season. But I think he has the highest upside. Um I mean, if he can ever get that shot together, but he's interested in his fifth season, so a lot of times it is what it is. Um, I think Shamet is the best of the lot, but I think our need is more at forward than guard. So I don't know, Tony. It's tough. It's tough for
mm.
me to say.
That's the. I mean, I don't know if I would have. You make. I feel like I agree with you, but I did. I never thought that he was like. All right, he's the best out of the three. I think he has the most
Mhm.
definitive skill set.
Fair.
I do think Mook can shoot that ball though. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where his career average is, but I know he's been at 38% before for sure. You know what I mean? I think he was with that with us with 6 attempts per game. Um, so he could fill that shooting role as well. I think Mook has the. I think he checks the most boxes as far as like what he could bring. Um, so I
Thirty-six
if I,
7%
I
3-point shooter.
say it again,
37.7% career three
career.
shooter.
So I'm gonna put that right there with Shamit because that's obviously over a longer stretch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So to you know what I mean, we talked about him averaging 38 even with last year at 33. I'm sure Mook has had some down years in his career. To still
Yeah.
be at 37 has to be, you know what I mean? You got to give credit and say, all right, that's a staple of his. Um,
But you wouldn't give the edge to somebody who's younger, though? I mean, Mook is on the downside, 35
True.
years old.
That's
Huh?
a good point. That's a good point.
You know?
And honestly, that was part of my argument with Okiki. Like when you talk about the upside at
Mhm.
25 and still some untapped potential. So you know what I mean? Like you could really go any which way
And make up
and make an argument for it.
yeah.
Um but when it comes down to God forbid a season like last year where you need guys to come in and step up and be ready right now, that experience with Mook plays a long way. You know what I mean? Now Shamit, he's right there too now. You know what I mean? Like because obviously, like I said, he's performed wherever he's been. And some people will consider it a knock of a guy who's been traded 5 times. But on the same and at the same time, that also means there's value in that guy from multiple teams. They want, you know what I mean? They want to. I want him. It's not like he's like a throw in everywhere he goes. You know what I mean? Um, the Clippers wanted him based off of what they saw him doing in Philly. You know what I mean? Phoenix wanted him based off of what he was doing on the Clippers.
Right.
Um, so sometimes that's just the business. The business can get a hold of you, and it has nothing to do with whether a guy is good or not.
Right.
Um, so I do agree. He probably is the most skilled guy out of all of them. I don't even want to say skilled
Yeah, because
because
Rebuild NYUK makes a good point. He said God is not a need. I mean, that's
that
fair too.
yeah, and that's the least need out of everybody. So it may be tougher. Yeah, I guess you can make an argument anyway. I'm going with Mook because I think he checks the most boxes like
Mhm.
as far as proven as far as whether you want to call him a star or you know what I mean in his small tenure with the Knicks half a season, but he stepped up when needed to at multiple levels on multiple teams. Whether it was Cleveland last year, you know what I mean. Oh, Donovan Mitchell's out, guys
Yeah,
are hurt in the
yeah,
playoffs. Came and stepped up.
yeah,
Celtics year in and year out, they're integral part of what they built. You know what I mean? The Knicks that year where we was just looking for anybody to kind of showcase and be a star. He did it here.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
and then the value he continued it. Like we moved him because the Clippers wanted him, who were considered a contender at that time. So you know what I mean? Like both of these guys I think played for multiple contenders.
Right.
I think as much as I like Okiki, I think he has the toughest road as far as beating out these two veteran guys, these two proven guys.
Right.
So if in order, I would put him last, even though he might be my favorite out of the three.
Hmm.
As far as like who he can end up being. Um, so I'm putting him last. I'm putting Mook first. I'm putting Shamet in the middle. Um,
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. Mook Shamet Okiki. Yeah. I mean, you can go. I mean, can you can say we got enough guards and put Kiki. I mean, this guy can defend. This guy can defend. You know.
and it's tough because that's my order. But if we're keeping two,
Yeah.
Shaman might move to three
Yeah.
on my list.
Yeah. 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 I also like Mook's just his demeanor. He's played in like he played in the playoffs last year. He's played in the playoffs multiple times. Let me see how many playoff games. He has 76 playoff games in which he started 46 of them. And he's averaged 28.4 minutes, playoff minutes. And last year he got 15. He averaged 15 minutes a game in the playoffs and shot 39% from three. Took about 2.5 threes per game. You know, I mean, yeah, this is somebody in the playoffs. You don't have to worry about shrinking. You know, I don't know if we can say that about Okiki. I don't know how many playoff games he's had. Probably not that many playing for Orlando, right? 4-year career.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's a good point because like I said, he's like he's the least proven as far as Okiki, right?
Yeah,
So he
Shaman.
he would he would have to show like when you say training camp is probably the deciding factor. He would have to show out in training camp to beat these guys out.
Shaman is not that far behind though. He's played 53 in his young career. He's played 53 playoff games.
Mm.
And started in 11 of them. Averaged about 19 playoff minutes per game and shot 35.7% in the playoffs. But 53 playoff games. And what did I say Mook was? Mook was
I figured the
56.
games.
I think it was 56. And Okiki has only played 2 playoff games. And he didn't start in any, and he's played 5 minutes, average 5 minutes per game in the playoffs.
And I mean those two things you gotta give the edge because of
Yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
The experience and the production with the experience. It's not like you was just out there laying eggs. You know what I mean? So yeah, this. I mean, the
Oh,
good thing about Okiki is maybe. Do you think there's a world where two things take somebody's two-way spot
Who's that?
and Okiki, and or do you think he would accept a two-way role, a two-way spot, as opposed to, you know what I mean, like,
I
because
don't.
we've seen that in years past where somebody's on a two-way, and then before the season starts, he's gone and somebody else, you know what I mean, they swap that out. Or do
Yeah.
you think he's too old, or you know what I mean, too, he'll have another suitor elsewhere?
Yeah. I I don't I don't think you can sign Okiki to a two-way because because of the number of NBA seasons he's played. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but
Okay.
I don't think you can um, sign him to a two-way. Um, but who's ever our listen, who's 13, 14, and 15 on our bench? You can argue that these three guys, I don't know who they are off the top of my head.
I
You
mean,
could argue
Dadier.
three guys is better than our 13, 14, 15 guy. I don't know who they are though. I have to check.
I mean, I would assume that Dadier.
Oh, the rookies, yeah. But see, you gotta
Um,
fill up the back of your roster. So Daddy, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm confused. It really where Tyler lands in this.
Kolick
Y-
has a
y-
regular he
Right?
he has a guaranteed
Yeah,
contract.
but so that's what I mean.
Yeah,
So does Dadier.
Daddy as well.
You know what I mean? So, but I'm saying I'm confused where he fits in the rotation definitively at this
Right,
point. So,
right, right.
oh,
But you
so
can
I don't know if he's 15th
right,
or
right,
ninth. That's what I'm saying as far
right.
as Kolick.
Gotcha.
But Daddy is definitely, you know what I mean, at the back end of that roster. One of these three guys is potentially going to be on the back end of this roster,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then I don't know where Sims falls. You know what I mean? But you would think those are the, you know what I mean, those are the three
Yeah,
on it.
you can't replace those guys. Like you gotta keep your draft picks. And I don't know if any skill wise they're better than Sims, but we're already short without Mitchell Robinson. If you replace 6'10 Sims with 6'8 Mook, yeah,
Yeah, that's why I think
yeah.
Duop. I'm gonna call him Duop. Diop. I think he's the prime candidate if we need to open a second spot for one of these three. He's probably the guy that gets waived and opens up the spot.
Right.
But um then and just real quick on Tyler, the creator. Somebody had mentioned this early in the off season, and I brushed it off. I didn't really, I don't even think I responded to it, but it definitely came across my mind the other day. Is there a world where you, like, do you think, how high do you think the Knicks are on him, or do you think there's a potential where the Knicks are posturing to boost his I don't want to say value, I'll say his interest?
Who's this now?
Tyler Kolick,
No, I think
like,
the Knicks are high on him.
high on him.
Yeah, I've seen somewhere that they just want to include him in a trade or mm, I don't think so. I think
That yeah, that was the question. Like, do you think they're trying to? I don't want to say boost his stock, but like boost the interest in him. You know what I mean? But I agree. I think they are high on him. I think the fact that he's in these runs right now giving him a little bit of experience against some pros
Strictly.
early.
He's
Yeah,
working
yeah.
strictly too. Yeah.
You know what I mean? All these things I think are signs that they really do have high hopes for him.
and what they signed him for. I think another team is like, nah, you're not putting him in a trade. We're not paying him a second round pick, $6 million or whatever it is. You could keep him. Give us somebody else.
Was it? It was
Was it 4 million?
four for 9,
Oh, 4 for 9. Okay.
or 9 for 4. You know what I mean? 4 year deal, 9 million. So it's like it's two, like 2.25 each year. You know what I mean? For, you know what I mean? But for, a second round pick where,
That
you
you
know,
haven't he hasn't played in an NBA game. I don't know that if that's what you do, if you're talking about trade. I don't think some people may not consider that a great value contract for a rookie. So I think when the Knicks make that move, it's like we keeping him because how you trading him? Who's taking on that salary for a rookie who hasn't played? Unless it's somebody who shares your thinking.
I mean, there might be, I'm not saying the Knicks are trying to move him, but
Mhm.
I think there's a consensus on who he was coming out of college. You know what I mean? Even being a second round pick, I think there still was a consensus.
Mhm.
But he definitely gives me Brunson vibes in the sense of, you know what I mean? Like, you looked at what he did in college and you looked at where he's drafted, and you know what I mean? And now you got a guy like, who better to take under your wing, or be under the wing of, than a guy like Brunson, who worked his way into stardom,
Right.
superstardom. Correct. Let me correct myself. But that's all I got for today, man. This was a great show. I love this series we're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Next week, it's the front office. You know what I
Yeah.
mean. So
About the front office. Yeah.
we depending on how it goes, because I think there's so much we could talk about with them. I might just piggyback on the back half, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
talk about the front office as well.
Yeah.
Um, any last words?
No, shout out to you. I appreciate you. No, I love this series as well. Shout out to the chat, the replay gang, and we'll be back. We'll be back next Monday. We'll see if maybe we can squeeze something in monthly or something during the season. We'll figure something out.
For sure. Um, Sim should be back tonight. I think around 8:30. Don't quote me, but check the notifications. He should definitely be back tonight. So I should be on there. I'm working on a special Losers Lounge edition without a game even being played. Some things I'm working on. So check out for that. Hopefully we could get that done, before the season even kicks off.
You're gonna be working overtime this season with the Losers Lounge.
I know, I know. My ultimate goal, hopefully, is to somehow get the Losers Lounge on Bleacher Report as well. That would be awesome.
Nice.
Um, considering that's where all the comments come from anyway. Um, yeah, that's the goal. Maybe not this year. Maybe we still building, we still growing, but that's the thought process.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, shout out to the chat, the replay gang, the first lady at MBK. Shout out to the whole MBK fam. Shuttle, Eru, Blanche Tears, Ron and John, the whole list. Divine, I checked out one of his shows the other day. It was nice to catch him live, and interact in the chat. Um, yeah, that's it, man. We out of here. Appreciate you, Queen.
Appreciate
Shout
you.
out to the chat. Your Black is time. Until next time.